When a man lies without self-discipline, he unconsciously communicates to the world that he is not in control of his life, and that includes the woman he is with. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about structure, order, and the ability to direct your energy in a way that serves your higher purpose. When you lack discipline, your actions are scattered. Your words don't align with your behavior, and the people around you can feel it. Respect is not something you demand with your voice. It's something you command with your presence, and that presence is built brick by brick through disciplined living. Think about it. Every time you snooze the alarm instead of getting up when you said you would. Every time you say you'll start a project but push it off for tomorrow. Every time you let your emotions run wild without learning to control them, you're sending a message. That message is that you cannot govern yourself. And if you cannot govern yourself, how can you expect someone else to naturally respect you? A woman, consciously or unconsciously, is always reading your energy, not just your words. If she sees inconsistency, if she notices you don't follow through on what you say, her trust in you erodes. And respect and trust are inseparable. A man who says he will be somewhere at 7 but shows up at 8 without a good reason is telling her he doesn't respect his own word. A man who claims he's committed to bettering his life but spends his nights scrolling endlessly, procrastinating or indulging in destructive habits is showing her he is not serious about growth. And the truth is, if you're not serious about your own growth, why should she be serious about respecting you? Discipline is the invisible structure that holds a man together. Without it, you become unpredictable, not in the exciting way, but in the unreliable way. And unreliability kills respect faster than anything. Self-discipline is more than just waking up early or going to the gym. It's about aligning your inner world with your outer actions. It's about keeping promises to yourself, even when no one is watching. When a man does that, he starts to build a quiet confidence, and that confidence radiates. It's not loud. It doesn't need to boast, but it's magnetic. A disciplined man has an aura of stability. He doesn't need to control others because he has mastered himself. And in relationships, that is the cornerstone of respect. She doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a man she can count on. She wants to know that when you say something, you mean it. She wants to know that you won't fold under pressure, that you won't abandon your responsibilities the moment life gets uncomfortable. A lack of discipline also shows up in how you manage your emotions. If you are easily angered, if you let small things provoke you, or if you swing from mood to mood without learning to ground yourself, you show instability. Instability is the opposite of security, and women respect men who provide a sense of security. It doesn't mean you have to be emotionless. It means you have to be able to feel emotions without being enslaved by them. A disciplined man knows when to speak and when to be silent. He knows when to act and when to wait. He is not tossed around by every passing impulse because he has trained himself to respond instead of react. When you fail to discipline your emotions, you may win small arguments in the moment, but you lose long-term respect. Financial discipline is another layer. If you live recklessly with money, always spending more than you earn, always chasing temporary pleasures instead of investing in your future, it shows her that you cannot be trusted with resources. Respect comes when she sees that you can manage what you have, no matter how little it is, and expand it. You don't have to be wealthy to command respect, but you do have to show discipline with what you've got. A man who saves, invests, and plans with foresight demonstrates stability. Stability commands respect. A man who has no control over spending, who chases instant gratification with no thought of tomorrow, creates a shaky foundation that no one can admire. Even discipline in health matters. If you constantly neglect your body, if you eat carelessly, refuse exercise, or lie without regard for your well-being, you're sending a message that you don't value yourself. If you don't value yourself, how can you expect her to value you? A disciplined lifestyle and health doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but it does mean you care enough to maintain yourself. Your physical state reflects your inner state. If you look tired, lethargic, and worn down because of your lack of discipline, it silently communicates weakness, and weakness over time erodes respect. The truth is, self-discipline is the purest form of self-respect, and when you respect yourself deeply, others feel compelled to do the same. But when you abandon discipline, when you let laziness, inconsistency, and lack of control define you, you communicate to her that you don't hold yourself to a higher standard. Respect cannot exist in that space. Women instinctively look for men who can lead, not because of dominance, but because of direction. Leadership begins with self-leadership, and self-leadership is impossible without discipline. Every habit you build, every time you say no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you, you reinforce that leadership. And when she witnesses that, she doesn't have to be told to respect you. She will feel it naturally. When a man begins to place a woman above his purpose, he unknowingly sets himself on a path where respect slowly begins to slip away. Purpose is the very core of a man's being. It is the inner compass that drives him forward, gives him clarity, and defines his identity. A man without purpose is like a ship without a rudder. He may drift for a while, but eventually he will crash or be pulled by the tides of circumstance. When a woman sees that you are abandoning your goals, your dreams, and the very mission that gives you direction just to keep her close or to please her. She will not admire that sacrifice. In fact, she will begin to lose faith in you. She will sense that you are not anchored in anything greater than her. And while she may enjoy the attention for a moment, deep down she cannot respect a man who has lost himself in her. Every woman wants to feel important, but no woman wants to carry the weight of being a man's entire reason for existence. It's too heavy, it creates imbalance, and it eventually becomes suffocating. What she truly respects is a man who has a vision so strong, so alive, that she feels inspired by it. When you live from your purpose, you are not swayed by moods, emotions, or temporary distractions. You wake up with intention, you move with direction, and you carry an energy that is magnetic. But when you place her above that, when you make her the central focus of your entire world, you begin to lose the very energy that attracted her in the first place. She fell for the man who was driven, who had ambition, who had fire in his eyes, not the man who abandoned his fire just to keep her happy. The truth is, a woman tests a man constantly, not always intentionally, but instinctively. She is watching to see if you will stand firm in your mission or if you will crumble at the slightest push. When she notices that her disapproval or her emotions can easily pull you away from your path, she loses respect. Respect is not built when you bend every time she is upset. It is built when you hold your ground with strength and calmness. You can love her, you can cherish her, but you must never allow her to become more important than the vision that gives your life meaning. That doesn't make you selfish, it makes you centered. Think about the men who inspire others throughout history. They were not men who lived to please others day by day. They were men who were obsessed with their purpose. And through that obsession, they commanded respect and admiration. A man consumed by his mission is not cold or distant. In fact, he becomes more attractive because he radiates certainty. And certainty is what women crave. A man without purpose becomes dependent, constantly needing reassurance, constantly seeking validation, and constantly adjusting himself to fit her moods. That kind of behavior does not create admiration. It creates frustration. Purpose gives you direction, and direction gives her security. A woman wants to know that if life gets tough, you won't crumble. She wants to know that no matter what challenges arise, you will continue to push forward, that you won't lose yourself trying to win her approval. When you abandon your purpose, you may think you are proving your love, but what you are really proving is that you are unsure of yourself. And a man who is unsure of himself cannot be respected. Respect is built when you show that your mission comes first. Not because she doesn't matter, but because without that mission, you are not truly yourself. A man who puts his purpose first does not ignore his partner. Instead, he gives her something powerful to align with. She feels proud to stand beside a man who is going somewhere. She feels proud to witness his discipline, his focus, and his persistence. She feels secure knowing that his energy is not wasted on chasing fleeting pleasures, but invested in something that grows and expands. And most importantly, she knows that his love for her is not born out of neediness or emptiness, but from wholeness. When you are aligned with your purpose, your love becomes a choice, not a crutch. Placing her above your purpose also creates resentment over time, even if you don't see it at first. When you neglect your mission for her, a part of you knows you are betraying yourself. That silent self-betrayal turns into frustration, and that frustration can surface as arguments, distance, or bitterness. She senses it, even if you never say it. On the other hand, when you stay true to your mission, even if it requires sacrifice, you live in integrity with yourself. And integrity always commands respect. The paradox is this: the more you make her your entire world, the less she respects you. The more you remain true to your vision, the more she values you. It's not because she doesn't care. It's because deep down, she wants to look up to you. She wants to admire you. She wants to know that she is with a man who stands tall in who he is, a man who cannot be swayed from his path. When you give up that path for her, you rob her of the very thing she admired about you. A man anchored in his purpose becomes a pillar. He is steady, immovable, and unshakable. His energy inspires respect, not just from his partner, but from everyone around him. He doesn't need to chase respect, because respect naturally gravitates toward a man who knows where he is going. And when she looks at you and sees that kind of strength, when she knows you would never abandon your mission for anyone, even her, she doesn't love you less. She loves and respects you more. When a man constantly seeks validation, he is silently telling the world, and especially the woman in his life, that he does not trust himself. Validation is a natural human desire, but when it becomes a need, it exposes insecurity. A man who always asks, "Do you love me? Do you think I'm good enough? Do you approve of this decision?" reveals that his sense of self is dependent on someone else's opinion. And the truth is, no woman can truly respect a man who doesn't respect his own judgment. Respect flows toward certainty, and certainty is built from self-trust, not from endless seeking of reassurance. At first, constant validation seeking might seem harmless. She may reassure you a few times, tell you she loves you, or encourage you when you're unsure. But over time, it drains her energy because it becomes a role she was never meant to play. She is not meant to be the source of your self-worth. She is meant to witness the strength you already carry. When you lean on her approval for every step you take, you shift the dynamic from partnership to dependence. Dependence erodes respect, because respect is tied to strength. A man who depends too heavily on validation appears as though he cannot stand on his own 2 feet, and no one admires that kind of weakness. A woman respects a man who trusts his own voice, a man who can make decisions without always asking, what do you think I should do? That doesn't mean you never take her input or listen to her perspective. It means you don't lean on it as a crutch. You take it into consideration, but you stand firm in your own choices. Constantly chasing her validation is like asking for permission to be yourself. And when you need permission to exist, you lose the natural authority that commands respect. A man who is grounded doesn't need constant reminders that he is worthy. He knows he is. And because he knows and others feel it, seeking validation also reveals itself in subtle ways. It can be in the way you change your opinions to match hers, the way you hold back from disagreeing because you fear disapproval, or the way you constantly need to hear that you're loved in order to feel secure. These behaviors might buy temporary peace, but in the long run, they create instability. Why? Because deep down, she begins to wonder if you are being authentic. She questions whether you are standing in your truth or simply saying what she wants to hear. And a man who is not authentic cannot be respected. Respect is built on the foundation of honesty and strength, not appeasement. A man who constantly looks for validation also risks becoming emotionally needy. Every relationship has moments of reassurance, but when reassurance becomes the lifeline of the relationship, it suffocates both people involved. She begins to feel pressure to always affirm you, to always keep you lifted, and to always reassure you. Instead of her respecting you, she begins to feel responsible for you. And responsibility is not the same as admiration. A woman may nurture a man, she may care for him, but she cannot look up to him if he is always pulling at her for approval. Respect grows when you show her that you can stand firm in who you are, not when you constantly ask her to hold you up. This is why self-validation is crucial. A man must learn to affirm himself, to recognize his own progress, and to approve of his own decisions without always needing external applause. When you validate yourself, you give her space to admire you. She can respect a man who is confident enough to say, I know this is the right path for me, even if she doesn't fully understand it at first. She may challenge you, she may question you, but deep down she respects the fact that you are grounded enough not to bend with every opinion around you. Validation seeking also ties directly into insecurity. If you are unsure of your value, you will look for her to confirm it. But the truth is, value is never given by others. It is recognized within yourself. A man who knows his value does not beg for validation because he already operates from a place of abundance. And when a man operates from abundance, his energy is calm, steady, and attractive. She sees that you don't need her approval to feel whole, and that makes her want to give you respect even more. Respect is not given to men who beg for it. It is given to men who embody it. A lack of self-trust also leads to hesitation, and hesitation weakens respect. When you can't make a decision without someone else's approval, you communicate uncertainty. Uncertainty repels respect because respect follows strength. Imagine a man who stands in front of a door waiting for permission to walk through it. He looks weak, timid, and unsure. Now imagine a man who walks through confidently without asking if it's okay. Even if he makes a mistake, his decisiveness earns respect. Women respect decisiveness far more than they respect endless hesitation. Validation seeking is also dangerous because it places her in a role she doesn't want to play. She wants a man she can look up to, not a man she has to constantly reassure. She may care for you, she may support you, but deep down, she craves a man who is sure of himself. A man who looks in the mirror and says, I am enough. A man who doesn't need her to tell him every day that he's worthy because he already knows it. When you live from that place of inner validation, her respect comes naturally. She doesn't feel burdened to keep proving her worth to you. Instead, she feels inspired to be with someone who already knows his worth. The reality is, constant validation seeking drains the relationship of energy. It shifts the dynamic from strength to weakness, from inspiration to obligation. When a man trusts himself, respects his own choices, and validates his own journey, he creates a foundation that others can admire. Respect is born out of that foundation. A woman doesn't respect a man because he begs for it. She respects him because he lives in such a way that respect is the only natural response. When a man fails to set boundaries, he unknowingly gives away the very power that earns him respect. Boundaries are not about building walls to keep people out. They are about creating standards that define what you will and will not accept in your life. Without boundaries, you become like an open field. Anyone can walk in, take what they want, and leave behind whatever they choose. In relationships, this creates a dangerous imbalance because respect cannot exist where there are no limits. A woman may care for you, she may even love you, but if she sees that you have no boundaries, she will slowly lose admiration. Boundaries show her that you respect yourself, and self-respect is the root of all external respect. When you let people cross lines unchecked, you are essentially teaching them how to treat you. If you say nothing when someone disrespects you, you are silently agreeing that their behavior is acceptable. If you continue to tolerate action that go against your values, you are communicating that your values don't truly matter. A woman is always watching how you handle yourself in these situations. If she notices that you allow others to walk over you, whether it's friends, co-workers, or even her, she begins to lose trust in your strength. A man who cannot enforce boundaries is seen as weak, not because he is unkind, but because he lacks the courage to stand up for himself. Boundaries are also about protecting your time and energy. When you say yes to everything, when you allow constant interruptions, or when you let others dictate how you spend your days, you drain yourself. And a drained man is not respected because he no longer stands in his power. A woman respects a man who knows when to say no, who values his time enough to guard it, and who does not allow distractions to pull him away from his mission. Saying no does not make you selfish, it makes you disciplined. It tells her that your life is direction, and anything that doesn't align with that direction will not be entertained. Failing to set boundaries also creates resentment. When you allow people to take advantage of your kindness, when you continuously put others before yourself without balance, you start to feel frustration building, and that frustration may not show immediately, but eventually surfaces as anger, bitterness, or emotional distance. She can feel that something is wrong, but she may not understand that the problem is not her, it's your lack of boundaries. A man who avoids conflict by staying silent is not avoiding the problem, he is feeding it. True strength lies in calmly asserting what is acceptable and what is not. And when you do this consistently, respect grows because she sees you as a man who is not afraid to stand firm. Many men believe that setting boundaries will push people away, especially the women they love. They fear that by saying no, by drawing a line, or by refusing to tolerate certain behavior, they will lose her affection. But the reality is the opposite. A woman feels more drawn to a man who knows his standards. She may test those standards, she may push against them, but deep down she respects the fact that they exist. Without them, she feels no structure, no stability, and no leadership. She cannot look up to a man who folds under pressure because leadership requires the ability to hold a line even when it's uncomfortable. Boundaries are also about emotional control. If you allow someone else's moods, words, or reactions to dictate how you feel, you are giving away your power. A man without emotional boundaries becomes reactive, constantly shifting based on what others do. A man with boundaries, however, remains grounded. He doesn't allow disrespectful words to penetrate his sense of worth. He doesn't allow manipulation or guilt to sway his decisions. He doesn't allow temporary emotions to pull him off his path. That kind of steadiness creates deep respect because it shows strength and maturity. She knows she cannot shake you easily, and that stability makes her feel secure. In relationships, failing to set boundaries often leads to one person controlling the dynamic. If you allow her to decide everything, to set the tone, to always have her way while you stay silent, she may get what she wants in the short term, but she loses respect for you in the long term. Relationships thrive on balance, and balance requires two people who both have standards. When you set clear boundaries about how you expect to be spoken to, about how you share responsibilities, about how you protect your personal time, you establish yourself as a man of respect. Without those boundaries, you become passive, and passivity is never respected. Boundaries also determine the level of trust in a relationship. A woman feels secure when she knows where you stand. If you are unclear, inconsistent, or unwilling to enforce your limits, she feels uncertain about who you truly are. But when you state your standards and live by them, she can trust that you are reliable, that you will not be swayed easily, and that you will not allow her or anyone else to treat you poorly. Trust and respect go hand in hand, and both are strengthened when boundaries are clear. Ultimately, boundaries are an expression of identity. They declare, this is who I am, this is what I value, and this is how I expect to be treated. Without them, you blur your own identity, and in doing so, you weaken the respect others feel for you. A man with boundaries doesn't need to be aggressive, controlling, or domineering. He simply needs to be firm, consistent, and unafraid of saying no when necessary. That quiet strength is far more powerful than trying to please everyone, and when she sees that strength, she doesn't resist it, she respects it. When a man neglects growth and self-improvement, he slowly chips away at the foundation of respecting his relationship. Human beings are wired for progress. We are designed to evolve to expand and to constantly reach higher levels of awareness and capability. When you stop growing, when you decide that who you are today is enough for the rest of your life, you begin to stagnate. And stagnation is not only unattractive, it is dangerous for respect. A woman may have admired your ambition when she first met you. She may have been drawn to your potential and your drive. But when she sees you lose that hunger, when she sees you content with mediocrity, her admiration starts to fade. Respect is not sustained by who you were. It is sustained by who you continue to become. Growth is not just about financial success or climbing a career ladder. It is about expansion in every area of life. It is about becoming more disciplined, more emotionally intelligent, more spiritually aware, and more physically capable. When a man invests in his growth, he sends a clear message, I am not done yet. That message inspires her because it shows her that being with you means being part of a journey that is alive, moving and forward, focused. On the other hand, when you neglect growth, you send the opposite message. This is all I will ever be. And that message makes her feel like the relationship is already at its peak with nothing more to look forward to. A man who doesn't grow becomes predictable in the worst way. He does the same things, thinks the same thoughts, tells the same stories, and repeats the same patterns year after year. At first, routine might feel comfortable, but over time, it drains energy from the relationship. A woman respects a man who can challenge her, who can introduce her to new ideas, who can expand her perspective simply by expanding his own. When you stop feeding your mind, when you stop exploring new skills or pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, You deny her the ability to admire your evolution. And without admiration, respect slowly dissolves. Neglecting self-improvement also reflects a lack of self-respect. If you refuse to learn, if you refuse to adapt, if you allow bad habits to dominate your life without making an effort to overcome them, you are essentially saying you are fine with being less than your potential. A woman sees that. She notices when you no longer care about improving your health, your finances, your mindset, or your character. And she interprets it as a sign of weakness, even if she doesn't say it directly. A man who accepts stagnation is a man who silently admits defeat, and respect cannot exist where defeat has been accepted. Growth also requires humility. It requires admitting that you don't know everything, that you can do better, that there are areas where you need to evolve. A man who rejects growth because he thinks he already knows it all is just as stagnant as the man who is too lazy to pursue it. Women respect men who are students of life, men who are willing to learn, willing to listen, and willing to apply new wisdom. That openness is not weakness. It is strength. It shows that you are not trapped by your ego, but are driven by your commitment to become the best version of yourself. Self-improvement also creates momentum, and momentum is magnetic. When you are working on yourself, whether it's hitting the gym consistently, building new skills, reading, meditating, or pursuing higher goals, you radiate energy, you move differently, you speak differently, and you carry yourself with confidence. That energy is contagious, and she feels it. She respects the man who takes charge of his growth because it reassures her that the future with you will not be stale. It will be expansive. Neglecting growth, on the other hand, makes you appear stuck. And when you are stuck, she begins to look elsewhere for inspiration, not necessarily in another man, but in other areas of life where she feels that movement you've stopped creating. A man who invests in his growth also builds resilience. Life will always bring challenges, setbacks, and struggles. When you are constantly growing, you are better equipped to handle them. You don't collapse at the first sign of adversity because you've trained yourself to rise above difficulty. She respects that resilience because it shows her you are not a man who gives up easily. But if you neglect growth, every obstacle feels bigger, every challenge overwhelms you, and every setback knocks you down longer than it. Over time, she sees this pattern and loses trust in your strength. Respect withers when she feels she cannot depend on you to handle life's weight. Growth also directly affects leadership. A man who grows leads naturally because his expanding vision gives direction to both his life and his relationship. A woman does not want to feel like she is dragging you forward. She wants to feel like she is being led in a bigger future. If you refuse to grow, you force her into the role of the leader, and while she may take it for a while, deep down, she craves to look up to you. She cannot respect a man who does not inspire her to rise because respect is tied to admiration, and admiration is tied to growth. Neglecting self-improvement is essentially neglecting the relationship itself. When you stop working on yourself, you stop bringing new energy into the connection. You stop surprising her, you stop inspiring her, and you stop creating the kind of dynamic that keeps respect alive. Respect is not built once and stored forever. It must be fed by your continued evolution. When she sees you striving, when she sees you pushing, when she sees you committed to bettering yourself, she feels pride in you. That pride is respect in its purest form. When a man avoids responsibility, he erodes the very foundation of respect that holds a relationship together. Responsibility is the hallmark of maturity. It is the ability to acknowledge your role in every outcome, to own your decisions, and to face the consequences with strength and dignity. When you shift blame, when you make excuses, or when you try to escape accountability, you send the message that you cannot be trusted to stand firm. Respect is never given to a man who refuses to take responsibility because respect follows strength. And strength begins with ownership. A man who dodges responsibility often believes he is protecting himself from criticism or failure, but in reality, he is weakening the way others perceive him. A woman may forgive a mistake. She may understand a failure, but she will not respect a man who refuses to acknowledge his part in it. It is not perfection that earns respect. It is accountability. When you can look her in the eyes and say, I made a mistake and I will fix it. You show strength. But when you hide, shift the blame onto her, or pretend nothing happened, you reveal weakness. And weakness disguised as pride never commands admiration. Responsibility also means being dependable. If you say you are going to do something, she expects you to follow through. When you make promises and consistently fail to keep them, you chip away at her trust. Trust and respect go hand in hand, and when one is broken, the other follows. A man who cannot be relied upon is not respected, because reliability is one of the clearest signs of strength. It doesn't matter how much you say you care. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. If your actions do not match your words, you are showing her that responsibility is not a priority for you. And when responsibility is absent, respect slowly fades. Taking responsibility is also about leadership. A relationship is not about control, but it does require direction. A man who embraces responsibility naturally steps into a leadership role, not because he demands it, but because his actions show he can carry weight. A woman respects a man who takes initiative, who is willing to solve problems instead of avoiding them, who doesn't wait for her to always make the hard choices. But when you avoid responsibility, you place the burden on her shoulders. And over time, that shifts the dynamic. She begins to feel like the leader, like the one carrying the weight. And while she may step into that role, she will resent you for forcing her into it. She may still care for you, but she cannot admire you. Avoiding responsibility also shows up in the small things. It's not just about major life decisions. It's about daily consistency. If you constantly blame traffic for being late, if you blame your boss for your lack of progress, if you blame your upbringing for your lack of discipline, you are avoiding responsibility. She hears those excuses, and while she may not argue with you every time, she records them silently. Over time, she recognizes the pattern, and the pattern tells her that you are not a man of accountability. A man who always blames outside forces communicates that his life is out of his control, and no one can respect a man who is controlled by circumstance instead of his own choices. Taking responsibility also means owning your emotions. If you lash out in anger, if you shut down when you are hurt, or if you let stress dictate your behavior, you must be willing to admit it and work on it. Avoiding responsibility in this area makes you appear emotionally immature. A woman does not expect you to be perfect, but she does expect you to be aware. When you can say, I reacted poorly and I'll do better, you show strength. When you pretend it wasn't your fault, when you justify toxic behavior, or when you try to make her feel guilty for your actions, you show weakness. Respect grows when you can own not just your successes, but also your flaws. Financial responsibility is another area that speaks volumes. A man who spends recklessly, who avoids planning, who runs from debt or refuses to face financial challenges, communicates instability. Money is not just about wealth, it's about discipline and foresight. A woman respects a man who faces his financial reality, no matter how difficult it is, and takes steps to improve it. But when you pretend everything is fine while ignoring the consequences, she cannot feel secure. And security is a core part of respect. Avoiding responsibility also kills progress. When you do not own your role in the outcomes of your life, you cannot change them. You become stuck repeating the same patterns over and over. She sees this stagnation, and over time, she begins to lose confidence in your ability to lead both yourself and the relationship forward. But when you take responsibility, you open the door to growth. You show her that no matter what happens, you are capable of adapting, of learning, and of rising again. That resilience is what makes her respect you even when things are tough. A man who embraces responsibility doesn't need to boast about it because his actions speak louder than words. He is the one who follows through, the one who shows up, the one who admits when he's wrong and makes it right. He doesn't point fingers. When life gets hard, he asks himself what he can do to make it better. That mindset builds trust, and trust creates respect. A man who avoids responsibility, however, creates cracks in the relationship that grow wider with time. She may stay, she may support you, but her respect will not survive if you consistently refuse to carry the weight that belongs to you.